Good morning. All right, I hope everyone is now ready to start this panel discussion. My name is Lori Collier. I have the privilege of leading the LA Opportunity Youth Collaborative with a bunch of amazing colleagues that are here today. Welcome to Los Angeles, a city built on dreams, struggle, resilience, and hope. Not the LA you see in movies and television, but the real LA, the one shaped by generations who have survived, organized, dreamed. The LA of Boyle Heights, Pacoima, South Central LA, Long Beach, a city where murals speak, where youth rise, where cultures don't just intersect, they remix, resist, and rebuild. This city holds deep contradictions, but it also holds enormous possibilities. That brings us together today. Over 10 years ago, the Los Angeles Opportunity Youth Collaborative was launched with the support from the Aspen Institute, the City and County of Los Angeles School, Unified School District, Philanthropy, and Unite LA. The LAOYC wasn't launched to create a new program. It was created to carry forward a decade of advocacy, reimagining how public systems work to support foster youth in accessing education, careers, and long-term stability. Because in a vast region as complex as Los Angeles, no single system could solve the disconnection alone. Since then, we've grown. Today, we convene this work alongside Unite LA, John Burton Advocates for Youth, working in deep partnership with LA City's Economic Workforce and Development Department, LA County's Department of Children and Family Services, and more than 100 cross-sector allies committed to transforming the outcomes for Opportunity Youth in Los Angeles. We, the LAOYC, serve as a bridge between government, community, and most importantly, young adults with lived expertise. These young people don't just inform the work, but they lead the work. As Brizia Gutierrez yesterday reminded us, this work is rooted in love. Love is not a sentiment, but a strategy. It's what grounds us in our shared commitment to dismantle systems that were never built for justice. As Tom Perez reminded us yesterday, idealism and practicality are not mutually exclusive. It takes both to move systems with integrity and impact. At the heart of this work is relationships. Relationships take honesty, courage, and the ability to lean into hard conversations. With love. Public-private partnerships are what make this work possible. When public systems bring reach and scale, philanthropy and community-based organizations bring innovation and urgency. We move differently. These partnerships thrive when grounded in shared values, mutual accountability, and the belief that systems must be redesigned not for, but with young people they serve. Lately, I've been sitting with a poem that begins with, everything I have to tell you about love, nothing. Everything I have learned about marriage, nothing. Love may wax and wane, but real partnership, the kind built on mutual commitment, vulnerability, and shared purpose is what carries us here. The poem continues, the kind where you reach out in the dark, not knowing if someone will be there, and someone reaches back. That's the work in Los Angeles has felt like. And then the Aspen Network has been that hand reaching back, a home base for reflection, renewal, and strategy, reminding us we're not doing this work alone. This isn't just a project, it's a public commitment. In Los Angeles, over 123,000 young people are disconnected from school and work. That's not just a number, it's a warning. A signal that systems weren't built for equity, especially for Black, Brown, Indigenous, LGBTQ+, and systems-impacted youth. Too many navigate housing instability, foster care, justice involvement, and school pushout. With few bridges back, that's why we launched the Horizons 32K strategic plan, a bold strategy to reduce youth disconnection by 32,000 before 2028. Not by asking youth to do more, but by asking systems to do better, together. Together, we have secured a U.S. Department of Labor Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act waiver, removing barriers for foster, justice, and homeless youth to access the largest federal workforce dollars in the country. We launched a universal referral process with our partners at the Department of Children and Family Services, leading to over 1,000% increase in referrals to all 7 workforce boards across Los Angeles. We've embedded young people as paid fellows and co-strategists, turning lived experience into system expertise. What's our secret? Systems change isn't a deliverable, it's a relationship. It's built on trust, iteration, and tension, the kind that comes with dismantling what never works while building what's needed. We've weathered leadership challenges, budget crises, and restructures, and through it all we stayed. Not because it's easy, but because presence matters more than perfection. That line again, the kind where you reach out in the dark, not knowing if someone will be there, and someone reaches back. That has been Los Angeles. Reaching, risking, staying. None of this happens alone, and we were never meant to do it alone. Today's panel will show you what's possible when cross-sector work is rooted in shared purpose. How departments are centering youth, not just in services, but in strategy. What gets in the way? Funding gaps, silos, egos, and how we move forward anyway. And how belonging, purpose, and meaning-making are not extras, they are the infrastructure for how young people thrive. This work will stretch you, challenge you, change you, not because you can't build without care, but with care. And you cannot build belonging without being willing to belong, to do the work, to the possibility that we don't have to do it the old way. In closing, I want to thank our partners with the city and the county and across the Los Angeles community. You keep showing up even when it's hard, and also to my thought partner and longtime co-convener of the LA OYC, Carrie Lamont, thank you. I am proud to share the arc of our work today. Even prouder that we have built it alongside most all of the other team members that are here. The entire LA OYC team, thank you for your fierce commitment, your behind-the-scenes brilliance, and the heart of what brings you to this work every single day. You are the backbone of this movement. In a city as complex as Los Angeles, systems change has never been linear. But over time, we've become something like lighthouses to each other, anchored in values, steady through storms, and always signaling that the work is worth staying in. So welcome. Be curious, be bold. This is a city that rallies late in the game. We're like Dodgers baseball, often underestimated, always committed, and we love a comeback. And just like any great team, we do not do it alone. So thank you, and I look forward to our discussion.
Wasn't that a great speech? Yeah, let's give her another hand. And I think I want to start with the exercises again, because that was a lot of fun. So we have some really great leaders that are going to come and talk to you today about how to do this work. And many of you have sat in these kind of convenings and talk about what the work should be, this ideal that collaboration is easy. And what we all know about collaboration, it is not easy, right? Collaboration is hard work. And it takes persistence, and as Lori really stated, it takes relationships. You have to build those relationships. So I'm really proud to introduce this panel that's going to talk about their individual relationships and how they've come together to work together as a system. So I would like the panelists to come up, and I'll introduce them as they're walking up here. So we have Mary Romero Barraza with the Department of Mental Health, Angela Park-Piles, Department of Children and Family Services, Gerardo Rubalcaba, the City Department of Economic and Workforce Development, and Jackie Robles, our youth. All right, and then we have Angela right over here. All right. So one of the things that I just want folks to really understand about Los Angeles, that it is a very complex system. And I always describe it as nobody's in charge of anybody else. No one's the boss. So you have a mayor over the city, but in that you have 15 council districts. And they all see themselves as mini mayors over their jurisdiction. And in the bigger region, you have 5 county supervisors who see themselves as mini mayors or big mayors over a lot of area. And those 5 county supervisors oversee the county services. And the county services is mental health, is probation, children and family services. They're really intense services. There's 87 other cities in this region. There's 80 odd school districts, I don't remember the exact number, who are independently elected. And then there's an independent elected community college district. And all of them report to different political apparatuses. So nobody really is in charge of anybody else when you talk about the comprehensiveness. So for folks to work together, it really means it takes people who are willing to dig deep and cross jurisdictional lines. So having a city person talk to a county person, to talk to a school district, to talk to a community college is not normal. It's not how the bureaucracies are built. So I want to set that context for you all, well, why this work is so important, that we have representatives from various parts of the city, the county, and the alliance here that could really talk about the impact. So let me just start off with a really simple question of how has this work and collaboration impacted your individual work? And we'll start with Gerardo here.
Sure, thank you, Robert. So for me, as you said, we navigate a very complex system with a lot of bosses and a lot of priorities that shift, almost daily. So having that network of partners that we can turn to, when issues arise, when we have an idea about okay, I think we have a mic, right? Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So having that network that we can turn to, the confidants that, to work together that we know have a common and shared interest is helpful. It enriches our programs, it helps us problem solve, and being able to be honest with each other about what's working, what's not working, and being open to it really helps improve our programs. So for me, this partnership is really critical, and I do think really improves the programs for all of our participants.
And if you could describe a little bit about your work in terms of the city and your role.
Sure. So I'm the Assistant General Manager for Workforce Development in the city's Economic and Workforce Development Department. So within that, I have responsibility over the city's workforce development system. So in LA, that's 4 major programs. On the adult side, we operate 14 work source centers that provide employment and career services for adults and dislocated workers, primarily folks with high barriers to employment, like low-income people with justice involved, people, homeless individuals, so folks with barriers to employment. We run a program called LA Rise, which is a partnership between our workforce system and social enterprises across the region. And that program seeks to connect formerly homeless and justice-involved participants to competitive employment. On the youth side, we operate 14 youth source centers. So So these are essentially dropout recovery centers that work with 16 to 24-year-olds that are disengaged from education and employment. We work with a whole host of partners, including our school districts, so the Los Angeles Unified School District, the Los Angeles Community College District, to reconnect youth to education or employment and really help move into career pathways that provide living wages. And then we also run what we call our Higher LA's Youth Program, which provides transitional employment to about 10,000 youth every year. So this is done through a form, anywhere between 120 hours to 1,000 hours of paid work experience. Through this program, we try to connect youth to career interests, so expose them to different career pathways, including government, nonprofit work, et cetera.
So collaboration is what you do every day.
Yeah, so collaboration is, exactly, a big part of this work.
And Mary, coming from the county mental health system, how has this collaboration impacted your work?
So coming from the LA County mental health system, as you probably all know, LA County mental health system is the largest mental health system in the country. So we collaborate all the time. But I think this particular collaboration, I think for our department and for me personally, really changed the game. It set the bar extremely high for what collaboration should be and can be. This particular collaboration changed the game for youth mental health in particular. And I think the reason being is when we all came together, there was not only a shared passion, there was a shared vision and a shared North Star. And although it's been 10 years, which is kind of crazy because it doesn't feel like 10 years, all of us have pretty much stayed connected through that 10 years, despite, hitting a lot of barriers, all the different things that we've gone through, all the different positions that we've been in. We've connected together over the passion that we share for this population. And so for our department in particular, we've always had services for transition age youth. We've always had services for children. But I think where we are now, compared to where we were 10 years ago, is pretty amazing, because what we're doing now is far beyond what we were doing 10 years ago. I don't think I would be in this position if it weren't for this collaboration. I was very happy in my old position.
Yeah.
I had no intention of applying to be a senior deputy, not at all. But because of this collaboration and because of the passion that we shared, I saw that there were things that I could do. And I think it was that passion that led me to get out of my comfort zone, because I knew I could make a difference. And so because of this collaboration, our department is in the process of launching the Office of Transition Age Youth.
Yeah.
And that Office of Transition Age Youth is being built, developed, based on the feedback that we've received from youth, with youth sitting at the table, and with the vision of youth not only sitting at the table, but being a part of and employed within the office of TAY.
That's fantastic, Mary. And thank you for your courage. I'm going to skip to Angela with that same question. How has this collab?
He just took my mic.
You took your mic? Yeah, all right.
He's right back here with it.
Here we go. We got another one for you.
Did
So
you see that?
solvers.
Did you see that collaboration? Okay, Mary handed it right over.
Yeah.
So good morning again. And let me just level set. Because how often do you see a panelist, walked in by 3 people and then lifted up to the stage? And many of you guys have known me for years, so I know you're thinking, what in the world, okay? So almost 1 year ago, I tore every ligament and tendon in my right knee. The only thing I did not do was mess up the bone, and apparently if I'd had a knee replacement, it would have been much better than what I did. My surgeon said, make sure you just tell everyone it was the career-ending injury of Charles Barkley, and they'll understand. There is no place that I would rather be. Thank you. have not been able to walk or do anything. However, when I got the call from Lori, and let me tell you about that call and how it all started 8 years ago. And much like Mary, I was really happy at what I was doing. I was a regional administrator. You know, I'd often been asked to go to the executive level, was not interested at all. A new director came in and said, you know, we're envisioning some things. We're envisioning something that looks like transition-age youth and looks like equity and community. And I said, okay, so they have now created a spot for me. And so with that, you know, I stepped into executive leadership, but not just to have the title. It had everything to do with the population. Even as a boots on the ground, as I call it, servant leader, which is that of our children's social workers, and I guess I should say Department of Children and Family Services. As you can see, I work there, but it's not who I am. So that's why, you know, I've already started on my journey here. And so working at the department for like over 35 years, even when I first started, I quickly, for whatever the reason, gravitated towards the TAY, the transition age youth. The 14-year-olds, I see Mary, probably the same thing. It was something about it. It was something about them and something about, you know, what others would see as defiance, I saw as something totally different. I actually saw myself in there. Because what it was really being determined. You know, we need to really change exactly what someone else sees as what is not comfortable for them. Because that's what this is about. Because young people make you uncomfortable, and you know what? That's such a good thing. So for me and this department and what we've been able to do, 8 years ago, I get a call. I mean, I hadn't even been in that office. I don't even know if I'd been in there a week. And I get this call. And at that time, the secretary says, you know, someone keeps calling. It's a Lori Collier. And she's from, you know, OYC, you know, Opportunity Youth Collaborative. And I have to say, I hadn't really heard of OYC at that time. But it was very persistent. And then she called again and again, okay? And then the interesting thing was the request was for in-person and off-site, not in the DCFS office, not in the walls and confines of our policies and procedures. She and others wanted to meet me for coffee. And I go, coffee? Okay. And they're like, you know, wherever you want to go, wherever you want to be, that kind of thing. And it was not only Lori, but it was our philanthropic partners too. And I'm not going to start calling names because I'm looking out and I see some of what I consider to be my friends in this work. And so many have just stepped in the gap and said, whatever you need. So I met with Lori, and it started this relationship. And I do mean relationship. It feels more like family. You know, it's like, you know when you have found synergy and passion and in someone's heart's work, not just what they do, but who they are. And that's what I found in Lori and so many others. And so she said, you know, I have ideas. You know Lori, okay? She said, I have ideas. And the other thing she said to me, which I really, really appreciated, because I like transparency, she says, oh, I am very familiar with the TAY services from, you know, the department and so on and so forth. And again, she was not in any way, you know, trying to be negative or any of those things, but she understood exactly not only the constraints, but she also understood that we had not yet began to think out of the box, you know, and know what was really possible. And she had the opportunity to bring that into what we were doing as the largest child welfare agency in the nation. And that's not a brag, it just is. You know Los Angeles, okay? If we gonna do it, we gonna step in it, okay? And so, you know, with that, again, it started the collaboration. And I do wanna say this part. I wanna say it was not perfect and it was not easy. But I do want to say, I remember our first Directors Advisory Council. And what that is where the director of the department wants a, you know, line, just a straight line to the young people. And I was the one charged with having purview over that. And I remember going to those meetings, and I don't know if any of our young leaders are in the audience that was involved in what we used to call DAC, which was just the DAC in the beginning. It was so interesting. We were also well-intended and so well-meaning, and we had caregivers, and we had those that love our young people. And the meeting began to be us doing what we do, all of the adults. us, feeling like we're taking care of the young people and getting it all wrong. Okay. And so with that, even myself, I'm thinking, well, why are the adults talking? Where are the young people? And so one thing, when you talk about collaboration and relationship and trying to get everything, on board in the way it should be, I will stop here and just say, let the young people show you the way. And I mean that.
And we're in a great transition because we saved Jackie for last as being the voice of the young people and being able to center our work around your needs, your thoughts, your concerns. So no pressure here, but talk about how this collaboration has allowed your voice to be represented.
Can you hear me? Yes. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much for coming and welcome to Los Angeles. I hope you enjoy some great food while you're here. My name is Jacqueline Robles. I am the young people they're talking about. I've been, just a little bit of background, just to level set. I was in foster care for about 17 years in LA County and I aged out. I've been doing advocacy work for about 10 years now. And I think what has changed the game for this collaboration, this is the first time I'm in space sitting up here with real decision makers and the director of DCFS. So a lot of times I've been on many councils. It's the popular thing to do. They love making councils and inviting the young people and giving them $50 gift card, and it's a one-time thing. And so this has been the first time I've been in a room for over several years now where I've been able to sit right next to the director of DCFS. So if we're talking about system change work, maybe the director of DCFS needs to be in the room or somebody that has those decision-making powers. A lot of times you're in rooms, it's a lot of talking and there's no action. So when you have that access to decision makers like this collaboration, and trust me, I'm real, like I would not be up here talking this if it wasn't true. And so I've been able to be in rooms and represent other individuals that are currently in the system, that are younger than me, and advocate for their needs. And so that has been happening for the past few years. It's really changed the game. That type of access is rare. So I think LA can serve as a model. So my call to action, I'll close it out with this, is that if you're in a space of system change, you make sure that young people are part of the infrastructure and part of the work from the beginning. They're not an afterthought. They're not used to be tokenized just to check the box to say that you had young people in the room, but they're part of the infrastructure, and you keep showing up for them, and they feel that, and they'll know that, and they'll keep showing up. Thank you.
And Jackie hit a great point about tokenism, because oftentimes we talk about we want young people at the table, but do we really hear them? Or we hear them, but do we take action as leaders? Or do we take action as leaders, then we go back and tell the young people? But you said it exactly right. We have to invite you to the table, we have to hear you, and most importantly, we have to take action. So with that, I'm going to put back to our panel here. In that vein, what is your biggest challenge of hearing the youth voice and taking action? What confronts you?
Great question. So in LA, I think we've done a lot to try to include youth at the table through our youth system. As we put together the Horizons 32K plan, it was critical that youth be a part of informing that plan. So having youth, be at the table, be part of, again, everything from developing the strategies to naming the program or naming the plan. Youth were at the heart of that. And we've expanded that. I think we've taken that, that need to have youth at the table to heart through our entire system. Our youth source centers, we now, embarrassed to say this after the last comments, but we've created 14 youth councils right at each of our youth centers where youth are part of, again, decision making, informing programming, informing outreach, to even what centers look like. But we've taken it a step further and now have invited youth from those youth councils to sit on our Workforce Development Board Youth Council. So they get to sit at the table with decision makers as us, we as a department, when we present budgets, policies, program recommendations to this board, there are youth at the table that get to speak about their experience and their input on that. So it is something that, for me and just for all of us, it is different and as you said, not just hearing them, but actually taking action based on their input. So it forced us to rethink a lot of our programs and just our approach as a whole.
Great, great. And Mary?
I have to agree. I think we work sometimes in very archaic systems that were built long ago. And it's really difficult to make changes in systems where sometimes rules are made and no one really knows why the rule was made. It's just we've always done it this way. And we have to challenge those rules, and we have to challenge why can't it be done this way. It's very slow. It's a really slow process. But what I can say is that over the last, I'd have to say over the last probably 4 years, I've seen the most change because the youth are not going to accept anything less.
Right.
They're very vocal, and they're saying, we don't just want our voice, we don't want to be tokenized, we want change, and we're going to demand change. And it's working. Things are changing. And I see the county making significant changes. I know just in our department, we're actually funding a needs assessment that youth are leading to see for housing, to see what is needed for youth. And based on that assessment, there'll be some changes made. Instead of just, gift cards, which has been the thing, a lot of leaders are standing up saying this is not enough. And there really is a push to hire more. We're working with LA City, we're also working with LA County HR to create more positions for youth with lived experience to come in. We know that they have the lived experience. They know what's needed, right? So we're working with them much more closely. But that's because the youth they're not accepting anything less.
Do you guys hear that lesson? Yeah, don't accept anything less. Yeah, stand up for yourselves. So I'm gonna take it over, Jack.
And what I would say, and I agree with everything that my fellow panelists are saying, but we didn't invite them to our table, we went to theirs. And that's what our DYAC is now. That's our Directors Youth Advisory Council. And what I mean by we went to theirs, and this is what Jackie is speaking of, Brandon Nichols, the director of the department, and myself, deputy director, we went to their table. And we said, tell us what it needs to look like. Because I'm gonna be quite honest with you, and this is what I love about young people. When we asked them, what would you like to see done differently? They said, blow it up. Simple as that. Okay. From the top to the bottom. That was their exact words. Lori knows. She was there. And they meant it. They were like, none of it's right. And again, they were not being obstinate. They were just telling the truth. I've coined not only those that have lived the experience, it is those that are living the experience as they're adulting. And so we said, tell us what you want. And that's what they did. Now, I'm not going to say, that we 100% said, okay, this is it, and we rubber stamped it. But what I will say is that we did not start to build the plane. What we did was they led from the front, and we came alongside. And what that looks like today is an entire new way of doing business, and we are doing a demonstration pilot. Matter of fact, it's not even a pilot. It's a test as to the way that we're going to move practice in Los Angeles County for our department. Yeah, really. And what that looks like is the youth engagement section. It looks like what has been designed by them. We say co-design, but not really, because it doesn't need to be co-design. How you going to co-design something for someone else? And so it is the design that they have stamped, they have approved, because that's very important. And what that's going to look like is everything that a transition age youth would want if by chance they are systems impacted. And then along with the community, because you know you can't do this work, as Mary has stated and Geraldo, you can't do this work as a bureaucracy. You just can't. There is red tape. We just have to all be honest. We are federally funded, okay? However, the community, they can move in ways that you never could. And that's the only way that you can really, really affect change. And back to the young leaders, I mean, I just can't say enough about, and that's what we call them in Los Angeles County, by the way. We call them the young leaders because they lead. Very vocal. I don't know, is Breezy in the audience? Because there she is. Because we don't move much without Breezy. And even when we talked about, Jackie mentioned, you know, being at the table as we uplifted Family First, which is also under my purview, which is very much, as you know, the new federal way that we will be able to fund, you know, child welfare. The first thing we did was identify a young person that was going to be there with us saying, don't go this way, go that way. And it's making sure that they're at all the tables. And yes, that young person absolutely was not with gift card or stipend. That young person was a youth worker that was employed, okay? Because that's very important. You know, do you really value your young leaders? And if you value your young leaders, what does that mean? That means a living wage. And so, again, for us, you know, it is not just, as Jackie said, hearing it, going to a meeting, writing down your notes, but actually taking it back and creating action. So right now, as we speak, and I think the matter of fact, the YES staff is in the audience somewhere. I don't see them, but I know they're there. There they are. A whole table over there. Please give that a hand because that's big. It really is. They're with the young people each and every day, finding out what is it that we need to do, what it's going to look like. They're going to be sitting with the case-carrying social workers. They're going to be in the community. They're going to be the ones deciding what the services look like. And they're also, more importantly, going to be deciding what they don't look like.
Right. So thank you very much. So Jackie, tell us, or tell the audience, what is your biggest wish that you would want to see in the future?
My biggest wish? This is off the script, huh?
Yeah. Well, see, we want to be real here. You
Yeah,
know, we want to say it. I know you have it in you.
Well, let me address something first. I'll take the gift cards. I'm not turning down gift cards. Don't get it twisted. But they need to be a good amount. So we take the gift cards. But anywho. So I think my biggest wish for the system is a place where these panels don't exist, where I can be retired and I don't do this work every day. And it's a place where every person that goes through these systems has an opportunity at success for whatever that looks like for them. So that's my biggest wish for the system.
And I would say, you know, in bureaucracies, there's job descriptions, there's these acronyms that you need a dictionary to carry around, you know, there. And people speak different languages when you're in different sectors. So the mental health, the workforce, Department of Social Services, and you go down the list, all have their own vocabulary. So main question I have or last question here for the panel is that how do you communicate up your bureaucracies, but how do you, more importantly, communicate across your bureaucracies that you speak the same language? How do you do that?
Me first?
Yeah.
That's a great question. And I think that's where, again, having an organization like the OYC is really critical for us, right? Because, again, you know, I think we're all, you know, high-level executives here that, again, with dozens of bosses and, you know, shifting priorities. So having, you know, an organization, a backbone organization like OYC, I think is critical to that. You know, it keeps us honest. It keeps us, you know, as we're distracted, right, with, I mean, I'm attending a budget hearing that's proposing to eliminate my department, right? But, you know, the work is important, and, you know, we need to continue this work. So having organizations like OYC and helping us maintain our partnership is critical to that. So that's, you know, one area. I think two, I think it's just around some of our common strategies, right? So for us, you know, career pathways and strengthening, you know, kind of education programs and partnerships is critical. So having those ongoing conversations with our partners around, some of those common interests or areas where our work intersects is important. And it's important to prioritize that. So, I ensure, a big part of my job is, continuing that conversation on a weekly basis.
And on a side note, it was the young people who came out this last week
Yes.
To testify to keep the Youth Development Department and to keep the Economic and Workforce Development Department.
Yes.
And their voices are being heard. So that's a great thing. So thank you for all those who helped Gerardo here.
Yeah, thank you.
So Mary, the communication piece is just so critical in this work.
The communication piece is really everything. For the county, and Angela, I know you know this piece, the county really has its own language. Everything is an acronym. If you walk into a county meeting, it really is like listening to a totally different language. It's easy to get lost. We have to be really mindful of the fact when we're outside of the county in collaborations, not to use acronyms. We have to be mindful that we are in a relationship, that we are leading with the heart and the passion and the North Star of whatever it is that we are working on. Because it's easy to lose communication when we county speak. And it happens so much. And those are the projects or the collaborations that usually don't work well. Because when you're in county speak, you lose more than half of the communication. So really just leading with the heart and communicating what it is, messaging what it is that you really want to message, just like you're talking to a friend, a colleague, like you would at lunch. And I think, again, that's the beauty of our collaboration with OIC. We have those relationships. We can really sit down at coffee or lunch and just have a conversation and be transparent about what's going on and not use county speak, because you're gonna lose half of what you're trying to communicate.
And I asked the same question.
You stay the course. And what I mean by that, you say the same thing every time, over and over again. Adult learning, they used to say 7 times. I beg to differ. It's more like 100 times. You have to say the same thing, and I do mean that every meeting, every forum. When we were called to the Board of Supervisors to go to cluster, and they wanted to hear more about what we're doing with our TAY unit and section, we did not walk in there with executives and staff. We walked in there with the OYC, with them leading the charge. I want to say it was about 10 or 15 young leaders that walked in, because our thing was, we will tell you, exactly what the blueprint is and the policies and the procedures, and we'll do the board motion, and someone said here, check the box. But it is the young leaders that lead from the front to say what is really, really, really happening. And again, we just did a presentation for the executive team, over and over and over again. And the first thing I said to them is that we came to you in this month, and then we came back to you again here. And this is our 4th time back saying the same thing over and over and over. And it's teamwork. That's the other thing that we've got to uplift. It's teamwork. It's not just Angela Parks-Piles saying it. It's Ronique Ross who's over there at that table, Dr. Trish Taylor at that table, Shantae McKinley, Brecia, Jackie, all of us together, same story, one band, one sound. No matter where you see us, no matter where you find us, no matter where you stop us, we're all going to be saying the same thing, because as Mary just said, it's our heart's work. And so you must lead with transparency, stay the course, be brave, and I'm going to tell you, executive leaders and decision makers, be fearless.
Very good, very good. And Jackie, I ask you the question, how does it feel when you walk into a room and people are speaking a whole different language and don't take the time to speak to you?
To be honest, I feel like I've been doing this, I can understand it, but I think now my role is to translate that. I'm in a space where I can take what young people that are in the system or closer to just getting out of the system and translate that to what they're saying. So it's a little different, but if I recall looking back, if I'm thinking back to when I was 18. Like, I was in survival mode. My mind was not clear. I couldn't understand what these people were saying. So I think my role now is different, but I think for young people, being in those spaces that they're not familiar with and hearing acronyms and all this government talk, they don't know what's going on, and these people are making decisions that will affect them.
Right. And we also know how frustrating it is when you invite people to your home and you speak in a different language, and then you're saying you were listening to them, but they're not truly understanding. And so it's a lesson for us as system providers and administrators to make sure that we're speaking the same language and making it clear what we're speaking about. As you go from system to system, it happens to all of us in those situations. So thank you for sharing that. So we have about 5 minutes, so I'm going to go, and then we're going to open it up for questions from the audience. So just one quick, if you guys go through, is that what is the biggest systems improvement you want to see, or what you're working on currently?
For me, and I'll start, I want every system to see every young leader like they see their own children, or like you were seeing.
Yeah.
And I mean that. That deserves a clap, and I mean that. I'm often asked, you know, how is it that you still have all this passion? Well, I have 3 millennials of my own. And they're already, one is 30, one is 35, one is 36. And they call me every day. They call me every morning. They call me all during the day. You know why? Because they're adulting and things change. And so the expectation is that all of these young leaders, that they do the same and that we be there and we stand in the gap. When we say lead with your heart, that's the heart's work that I'm speaking of. I'm speaking of when I look at Jackie, and I certainly not in a condescending way, but in a loving way, I see my children who I love and adore. And so for me, when you say, what do you want to see and the biggest systems change, I just want us to be real. I just want us to understand it is a relationship. Do you really like everyone in your family? You don't like them, but you love them, okay? I want to see that kind of relationship with our young people. Do my children get on my nerves? Absolutely, every single day, okay?
I thought I was the only one.
No, you're not. But I would lay my life down for them, okay? That's what I want to see when you talk about systems change. I want it to be real. I'm like, Jackie, blow the panels up. I'm enjoying being up here, but more importantly, I want my walk to really signify what I'm up here saying on this panel. I want you to look at me and know that's somebody standing in the gap.
Very good, very good. Yeah. And Jackie, what do you see as the biggest systems improvement you want to be able to see?
Well, let me back up, because I want to say something that I didn't say. I want to add, I really want to double down on what the Director Youth Advisory Council has done. We created a whole department. I think maybe, not that it was lost, but this was not pushing out another report. There's actual employees sitting over there. We created a whole department. We didn't meet and get gift cards and talk, and they typed some notes and pushed out another report. That's not what happened. And so I just want to double down on that, because I think this is the start of something and a new way of business forward. And I think LA can serve as a model for other cities and counties that want to do something like that. So to answer the question, I think, can you repeat it, please?
What's the biggest system improvement you want to see?
System improvement. Well, I think young people being built into the infrastructure from the beginning is something that I want to see across the board and built into the infrastructure. I know in the recent years it's become like a hot topic, like I said, the popular thing to do, but I really mean it, and I want that to be the standard of how we do business, and I don't want them to be an afterthought. And I'll close out with this. One of my favorite professors once told me, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Yeah.
That's right.
And Mary,
I have to agree with that. I think I'm really excited about the Office of TAY. I'm excited about the direction that our children's programs are going. I'm excited about the opportunity to bring on Tay as peer advocates to work in our system of care. I am also excited about the succession planning. We talk a lot about the different levels of management that we've been in this collaborative and how we've carried the vision forward. You know, I've been doing this for over 30 years. Hopefully I get a chance to retire soon.
No, you can't go.
There are managers and leaders under me that I am really working with and mentoring because they share that passion. And I want to hand the baton to them and let them carry this forward, because not only do they have the vision and the North Star, but they have the creativity to carry this farther than I've taken it and train those underneath them. But by bringing in the peers, we are also creating peer leaders who will then take it another step farther. So creating this mentor train to continue to have leaders that carry this work forward 5, 10, 15 years down the line, so that the next time we have one of these 10 years down the line, we have youth leaders up here that are in my position.
Yeah. Very good. All right.
Yeah, I just want to double down on something that was said here, right? In terms of, you know, caring for these youth like as they were our children. You know, I think about, you know, a program that we recently invested in where, you know, admittedly was a very high, you know, cost per participant compared to our normal programs. But we had amazing results, right? With most of the youth getting jobs over 6 figures. But there's a criticism because we spent $20,000, you know, per student. And the people criticizing around us, many of them had you know, their own children in private schools where we're spending so much more than that, right? And so we think about, you know, our own children are worthy of that investment, but when we see an opportunity youth that didn't grow up with the same advantages our own children did, then it becomes an issue. So I think we need to just keep that in mind, that, you know, these youth are also worthy, and, you know, they, you know, and we need to invest in them.
Very good. So we'll take questions now, and here we go. Look.
First question. Okay. Thank you to all of you. So I'm so grateful to each of you for our partnership, collaboration, and all of the work we've done over the last 10 years together. I would love for you to share with this audience about how helping young people feel seen, supported, and connected, not just meeting immediate needs, but how have you been building real sense of belonging, well-being, and purpose over time in your work with young people?
So I'll start. So again, just as I stated before, and I was asking, you know, where Barisi and others are, if you really want to talk about belonging, and I remember when we first started inviting our young leaders to the table, and Barisi and Alicia, they met with us. You know, they had a pre-meet with us to say, you know, is this going to be more of the same? Is this going to be, just as Jackie said, you know, us at the table, you know, you guys writing down things, or is this really going to be a partnership? And so, again, the ask of them, and I'm really big on asking questions of young people, what does that look like for you? And so to answer that question, it looks like whatever they tell you that they need. It's as simple as that. They get to decide what the partnership is. They get to decide what their contribution is and how they make it. We used to have our meeting at a time that didn't work for our young leaders. And they came to us and said, you know, we need to change this time. And then they didn't like the location. So then we changed the location. It's as simple as that. You know, when you're asking about othering and belonging and intentionality and all of those things, I love all those words, but what it really means is not what I said to you, how did I make you feel? And so what it means is a young leader saying that I feel like this is my room, my table, my place. And so for us in the department, that's what it means for Department of Children and Family Services, a young leader saying that they really believe that they can take ownership in what it is that we have collaborated on.
Very good. Mary or Jackie, good?
I'll quickly add. I think one thing that wasn't mentioned was about, Angela mentioned when they first started the collaboration, they thought they got it right and then they got it wrong. But I think what was so powerful, this has been years over years of work, that they were able to say they messed up, they came back and wanted to do it right again. And I haven't really seen that. I think when people get it wrong, organizations get it wrong, they're quick to throw in the towel and then that's it. It just disappears and nothing ever comes out of it. So I think that's really powerful of what they've been able to do. So that's all I'll add.
I think for our department, for at least the last 10 to 12 years, we have been going out where transition age youth are. We go out in the streets, we go to the drop-in centers, we go to the homeless shelters, we go to everywhere where TAY are. We do focus groups, we ask them how the services are, what do you need, how can we improve. We have outreach events, we go to the youth commission, we bring ideas there, we go there to get ideas, we vet things with them. Just a couple of weeks ago, actually, this Take Action events for May is Mental Health Month. This year we decided to do them at community colleges so that we could make sure that transition age youth who are in college are getting access to mental health resources. So all of our Take Action events this year in every service area have been at community colleges. So as youth are getting out of class, going back in class, all of our resources are there for them. And we've had really good response, really, really good response. So I think just making sure that we are aware, we're connecting with them. Every time I do an event and I see youth, I always go to the table, I talk to them, I get information. Everything I do, I'm always asking them what they think, how do you do, how do you feel about this? We're actually also in the process of putting together an advisory group. We fund, as I said, the needs assessment. Anything and everything that we can do to include youth in our programming.
Yeah, no, I would agree with everything that was said. Probably what I would add is in ensuring that we take action, right, on what we're hearing back from youth. In the city of LA, we've done a lot of surveying, speaking to youth about what services are needed. And the top two, no matter, where in the city we ask that question, the top two services are always mental health and, workforce development. So developing programming that is responding to what youth are asking for and building those partnerships, right? So better connecting with mental health and our youth system, developing peer mentoring programs, ensuring that, we're developing career pathway programs that are responding to what youth are asking for. So it's important not just to speak to them, but actually follow through and inform programs, right, based on the feedback.
And I want to say too, and I see other hands, about the intentionality and focusing and putting your money where your mouth is. In 2021, many of you guys know we faced what was considered to be a housing cliff as a result of the pandemic and COVID and so on and so forth. And in our department, and the numbers etched in my mind, we had 1,373 young people that were going to be transitioning out of our system on December 31st of 2021. We were told about the concern in July, never gonna forget it, okay? And said, okay, this has to be solved. And never one time did we hesitate and think that we couldn't do it. It wasn't that we couldn't. The concern became, is everybody gonna come to the table? Is everybody gonna get in and realize, that it's gonna take all of us to make sure that this 1373, that they get what they want and what they need, because as you very well know, right above all of the education and workforce and all of that, which everyone needs, is housing, and shelter. And so with that, again, we were able, as a collaboration, everybody sitting here, we all work together, other departments that, may be in the audience, DPSS, DHS, everyone, but more importantly, forget the departments and the acronyms, the people came together and worked and ensured that 1373, because we listened to the young people, we met them where they were, as everyone is saying here, we asked them, what does it look like to be sheltered? That's another thing. You may think it's one thing when for them it's another. But I can proudly say for all of us in this room, 1373, and we didn't lose not one.
All right, that's great. All right, we have some questions over here. Yes, sir. All right, go ahead, talk loud. Go ahead.
Because you talked about the infrastructure. So as executive leaders and people in position to make those decisions with the young people there, what does the infrastructure look like? Like, we're literally at a point where young people are literally aging out, but they're becoming part of the Forum Fam, the Institute as consultants. But sometimes I've grown in this movement, there's a level of like, some people lead with the heart, but we know sometimes the heart can literally keep us hostage. Right? So when you talk about being an adult and literally growing, wanting to help these young folks, but not understanding, even as you listen, Jackie casting the vision of infrastructure, what does that look like? How are you all bringing these young folks on to be consultants in the work, hired with benefits?
So Mary, why don't you talk about your examples?
So we are working with the City of LA. We're also working with LA County to work with youth who are going through their programs that have peer advocacy. So there's a peer advocacy certificate. You can go through the program, get a peer advocacy certificate. You can go through their program through the Workforce Center for LA County. You can also go through their program. Then you can come on as a peer advocate, right? So you apply for the peer advocate position. It's on a community health worker item, but you come on as a peer advocate. We're in the process of putting this together now. Once you come on as a peer advocate, after 6 months of being a peer advocate, you now qualify to be a community health worker, right? So you can, right, so now you can apply for a promotional item, which is now the community health worker. Within the department, there's lots of community health worker items. Right now, I'm keeping them in the office of Tay because I want to be able to keep them close, oversee them, give them the support that they need, right? Because I don't want to send them into the adult world because we know that Tay have unique needs. So I want to keep them close, make sure they get the training and the support that they need. But there's plenty of positions within the department, so there's all kinds of different places they can go. There's also senior community health worker and supervising community health worker. So there's a career trajectory right there. For those who want to go back to school, there's other positions they can apply to. So the career trajectory can go all the way up, right? We're also working with the local community colleges. They also have peer advocate certification programs. So we're working with LA Valley College, we're working with Long Beach Community College and Cerritos Community College. We're bringing in interns and we're working with their peer advocacy program as well. All of this is in development, but this is what we're planning. Right. We also have relationships with the state universities to bring in bachelor's level interns, and we have graduate schools that we work with to bring in graduate school interns. So there's a whole pipeline of different opportunities that you can step in any direction.
Okay. And we're just right about out of time, but I'm going to ask the panel just quickly, give your one word that you're going to leave here today with, that you want to share with the audience. What's your one word? Go.
Action.
Action. All right, go ahead, Jack.
Fired up. That's two, but fired up.
Yeah, fired up. All right.
Hope. There's hope.
Yeah. Commitment.
Commitment.
Yeah.
All right. Give the panel a hand. And the last thing I'll say, in Los Angeles and the LA story, when we started this work about 20 years ago, it was about 100,000 young people just in the city of Los Angeles who were disconnected. So when we talk about the 48,000 that we're facing in now, it's about half. But it took the work that you hear today, the real heroes and heroines, and Lori and the staff and everyone that's been working together for decades now to really drive home the point that we don't have to accept 1 out of 5 young people without work and without school, and we should not
It's gotten
accept
through.
1 out of 10. We should actually provide an opportunity for all young people to have a job, to have an education, to have housing, to have mental health, and to be able to have leadership positions. And that's the work that we're all about. So with that, we'll just thank the panel again. Give yourselves a big hand, and all those in the room that contribute to the LA story. So thank you, guys.
We have one more quick question. One more question. Sir, one more question, I see.
One more question. All right.
One more question, sorry. Mamadou, right, over here somewhere? Put your hand up. Oh, way over there. There you are. Sorry.
All right. And for the record, I want to say we ended on time. So I'm watching this thing. It was driving me nuts when I watched it. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Thank you, panelists. So I was just going to pick up on the last point, I guess, that was made around young people who want to be in leadership positions, right? So I think somebody said that earlier. And I just wanted to ask the panel to really talk about like what is intentionally and explicitly being done to really expose young people to what it is like to be in leadership position and to help them dream and really see these options as possibilities, real possibilities for them in the future. Because you all have talked about the importance of having young people with lived experience being in leadership position. As most of you said, you're about to retire. So I'm just curious about what's being done to do that effectively.
I love that question, and I'll give briefly and then the rest. But shadowing, we actually had the opportunity, I gave the abbreviated version, to have a young person, and she was in the youth worker on the item. And we as well have youth worker items and our community health workers, and we keep them as well in our TAY section. And so we had that young person, when I say shadow, meaning go to every meeting that we were going to, side by side with us at the time, and she happens to be in the audience. Ronique Ross was the interim division chief for the TAY section, TAY unit. And so this young person actually accompanied her and myself to all of the meetings in real time, at the table, seeing exactly what it means to be a decision maker, how decisions are made. And it looks kind of different when you're really sitting at the table, all the things you have to take into consideration, all of the nuances. And that young person has now graduated. I forgot where she's working, but she's been an advocate for this work. And again, it was just a stepping stone, to exactly what leadership can look like. So just as Mary mentioned, the very first thing is the pipeline of employment. Okay, and that's what we're doing, all of us collectively in Los Angeles County with our Department of Human Resources. We've already identified the items, and that's what Mary was speaking of. And so it's not just having the item, but when you get the young people and you have them apply, just as your question is suggesting, have them shadow a decision maker. Be in the meeting, sitting side by side, where you can lean over like you saw me do with Jackie and say, what do you think? That's what we're seeking to do.
We did something similar quite a few years ago, actually with the help of OYC. We started a similar program many years ago, very successful program, and we had a lot of our youth actually that graduated from the program now they're not youth anymore, but they now are employed by the county. They came in on entry-level positions, they're employed by the county, and what we did is we had different leaders who started in entry-level positions and worked their way up into leadership. I brought them to the classroom and had them talk about their career trajectories to the kids, to the youth. Sorry, I didn't want to call them kids. To the youth. And we had them job shadow. Because we wanted them to know just because you're coming in on an entry-level position does not mean you have to stay on an entry-level position. There's plenty of opportunity to move up. And once you're in the county, again, county speak, right? There's a system within the county that many people don't know about. And so when you're inside, it helps to know how many different ways you can go. People on the outside don't usually know that. And so they knew it because they started as an entry-level position and now they're high-level management. So they explained how they did it. And so many of those youth now are in higher positions, even though they started off in an entry-level position. So the goal is that we're going to do the same thing with the youth that are coming in this time.
And Herta?
Yeah. Similarly, in the city, we've developed programs that try to connect youth into city career pathways. Recently funded through a California grant, or the state grant, what we call our community college career pathway program, where we're providing opportunities for about 400 youth every year to expose them to different career opportunities within the city. So depending on on their career interests, whether it's accounting, public policy, we connect them to council offices, to city departments, with the goal of exposing them to career opportunities and pathways within the city. Part of that program does include, as has been described, kind of job shadowing, kind of mentorship program, so that youth really get that understanding of, all of the opportunities that are within the city.
And we'll end with Jackie in terms of your career trajectory and what were the things that helped you launch.
Yeah, so I would say I think of it a little bit different because I think in my head on the young people side, you can't assume that everyone wants to work in those spaces. Actually, I'm thinking about people, they exit the system, they're like, I never want to hear from the county again, don't want anything to do with it. But I will say, if I don't, my 9 to 5 is not focused on foster youth, and that's by choice. If I wanted to, Los Angeles is rich of resources in anything I wanted to do when I graduated from school. So I could have went that route. That's not what I chose, but because personally, I don't want, foster youth is one part of my identity. And so I like doing this on the side because it's hard work and it's hard work. And so I can't do this 24/7. So respectfully, I appreciate those that can do. So to answer your question, there are a lot of opportunities in Los Angeles to get in those fields, work your way up. A lot of programs, I think having lived experience is always advantageous and something that employers are always looking for in that space typically. So there are the opportunities, but I would say don't assume that everyone wants to do that because I think it's more often than not.
To Jackie's point, in our department, we've started Open the Doors, and it's a collaborative, and we are collaborating with the studios, motion picture, NFL, Google, I'm gonna miss somebody, they're gonna strangle me, Sony, and others, to your point, so that the other opportunities for our young people, we just finished Dream Week as a matter of fact, and that's what we call it, where our young people get to shadow others in other industries. Jackie hit the nail on the head. It's not often that, always that somebody wants to follow that path. There's other things more than college, and there's trades, and there's all kinds of things. And so to Jackie's point, that's another thing that the young people brought to the department and said, we don't all want to do this, and it may hurt your heart a little bit that everybody doesn't want to be a social worker, but the reality is there's other things, and Los Angeles is huge, as are other jurisdictions. So the other thing for systems is to dream big, and that's what we're trying to do with our Dream Week and Open the Doors to you.
Hey, Robert, I have one young person that wants to ask a last question here.
Oh. Hey, y'all. Proud of y'all. Love you guys. My question to you guys, it says a go. My question to you guys is, what difficulties have you seen in the implementation process and incorporating youth? And how maybe have you overcome it? But I really want to hear the difficulty part because I feel like everybody else in this room can learn from that. Thank you.
For our department, we're huge. Again, I said, the largest child welfare, getting everyone on board, and that means from the bottom to the top, and that and again, staying the course. That's why you're absolutely right. I'm glad that you asked that, Izaka. Just making sure that, as I said earlier, I started with it. Stay the course. It is difficult. It really is. I want to paint a true picture here. It is a daily grind, if you will, and that's why I said it has to be truly your heart's work. If you're going to be a champion, champion this. It's talking about it every day, all day, being relentless, making it a non-negotiation of the way that we step in the gap for young leaders. And thank you for that question, because it is a ever daily grind.
What's the biggest challenge, Jackie?
I'll pass it.
All right.
I think for us, it's usually bureaucratic red tape. There's certain supervisory structures that have to be in place, the number of people that a supervisor can supervise. And I think for me, because I'm so protective of Tay, the supervisory structure is larger than I like. For me, if I'm gonna bring Tay on, I want them to be supported, because mental health is difficult work. And as you were saying, there are a lot of triggers, particularly if you have lived experience. If we're working closely with DCFS, if we're working closely with probation, there can be a lot of triggers. We have to be mindful of that. I have to make sure that you are protected, that you are not triggered too much, that there's a space for you to be able to work through that. If you have 10 people and one supervisor, and 10 people who have lived experience that could be triggered at different times, that's not gonna help you. So I have to be able to fight that red tape and explain that in a way that they will let me have the supervisor have 5 people instead of 10. Because I'm not gonna bring you on and set you up for failure, right? So it can be really slow moving, but I would rather it be slow and effective than bring you on and set you up for failure. So I think for me, that's the biggest barrier.
I'm back with my answer.
Right.
I'm thinking from my end, from the young person end. I think the biggest challenge for me now in this moment, and like as I've been going through this journey, is being taken as a professional and not somebody just with lived experience. I think sometimes when you want to do this work seriously, I get put in a box that they have traumas, they don't know anything, or they're not healed yet, or whatever it is. So I think in this moment, that's my biggest challenge. Another thing is that, and why I don't do this full time, is because it's a lot of work. It is traumatizing to keep being in that work all the time, 24/7, and having to show up after you've been removed from the system, after you've aged out, for me personally. So those, I would say, on the other end, not on the implementation end, but showing up as a young person.
Yeah, I would just go back to the point, right, of the bureaucracy. We work in a federally funded, highly regulated system that is built not to change, right? We do things because we've always done them. There's no incentive for us to take risk, right, and to do things differently. But I think this work requires that we do that, right? Requires that we be entrepreneurial, requires that we take risks, for the sake of, our young people. And so just having, again, make that commitment to the work, to do things because that's the way, what youth need, right? It's really important. But it does take, it takes a lot of risk. And again, as bureaucrats, we're not used to risk. Yeah.
So I want to thank the audience and thank the organizers for giving us some extra minutes. Did you see how rich the panel is and their experience? So please talk to them, throughout the rest of the day, and leave you with 3 things: that leadership matters, vision matters, and values matter. So in this work, you have to have all 3. So thank you again. All right, here we go. Thank you. Okay. There you
go. Oh, my mic is on. 1, 2. Good Lord. All right. Well, good afternoon or good evening, good morning. I don't know what time it is. It's really dark in here. So, my name is Dimitri Dunn. I'm also one of the former young leaders from back in the day. Yeah. So, shout out to y'all. And I haven't been in one of these in a minute, so it's always nerve-wracking being in front of a lot of people, decision makers. It's great to see y'all. You know, I'm a product of the system. Been there since I was a youngin'. So yeah. And I'm gonna do some spoken poetry for you. I'm gonna share something that actually was in a very dark part of my life at the beginning of the pandemic, when everything felt like nobody could be seen or heard, and I just felt like I was stuck. I didn't have the best social worker, who was basically MIA when I aged out, and it was on me to figure out what to do with the rest of my time. Luckily, I found the OAC, then I found myself, and figured it out from there. But I'll share something with you. Cool. This is called I Pray. So, I woke up in a small space, not sure where I am in this dark place. I say, hello, can anybody hear me? Oops. It's quiet except for the echo around me. My mind falls still as my body starts to quiver. A winter cold flows in and makes my soul shiver. The smell of fear seems to fill the air, and my heart sinks down to the pit of my liver. I look around to see if anybody is there, but I find my own reflection, but something is weird. Who is this person that is there, gazing back at me? There's no way it could be me, because I'm in disbelief. I'm not prideful, but they boast. It's a shame to see that the person that I played is now playing me. As I hang from strings, the puppeteer is now steering me further down than the eyes can see. Oh, I'm sorry for the interruption, but I feel like my head is about to blow, like a combustion. From all of this lusting, from a family I don't have, you know, they left me in the past, to the point where I feel like I'm erupting. Inside my mind is a space like a plague. You get the fever and chills, and while you suffocate, on the outside, people will laugh at you, not knowing about the traumatic hurdles you ran through. I pray. That's basically it. That's all I got for y'all. That's it. Yeah. Cool. You good? Can I go now? All right. Thank you guys for having me up here. That's really all I got for you today. I don't really take up any more time, so thank you. Yeah.
Please join me in showing Dimitri some more love and that panel some more love. So the good news is this is scheduled to end at 9:45. We'll get out a couple minutes early. I want to, before we wrap this part up, connect a couple of dots between yesterday and today. So we opened yesterday, and the conversation, the vision of the conversation was about a more inclusive and just democracy, and understanding in this moment how we continue our work to get there. And many of the themes that we talked about around solidarity, coalition building, and the funding, communication, and resources it takes, not just to sustain, but to make sure that we're still holding an expansive vision, I want to connect to some of what came up here today. Because yesterday we talked about solidarity, and then today what we talked about was working across, up and down and across, on behalf of all young people. So knowing no matter where you sit in the system, your ability to see the other side, the other partners, that also is how we should be thinking about and connecting this solidarity conversation. The other thing that we talked about yesterday was coalition building. And today, Robert, but all of the panelists reminded us in very elegant ways around what a shared vision is what a shared vision means in terms of collaborating for impact, which again is also how you do coalition building, making sure that we understand how the work that you do over there is tied to the work that we do over here, and how all together we are able to achieve this more expansive vision. And then the other piece that came up is the language, the resources, the time, thinking about the time that it takes to do this work. And time was also very, very much rooted in the conversation that we had yesterday. And then the final piece that I think Jackie just spoke to in such a beautiful way, but so did Mary and so did Angela, is really, really holding at the center the hearts of our young people. And that really is the inspiration fundamentally that drives us, that grounds us, that we remain rooted in. That was very much present in yesterday's conversation, and it was present again today. Now here's what I want us to close with. We are gonna come back, we're gonna go into breakouts, we're gonna go into some team planning, we'll do the vision setting for the future. When we come back, we're gonna close with a panel of young leaders. And that conversation that we started with yesterday, the national, state, hyperlocal, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that, except the addition to the conversation when we close today is we're also gonna have a global youth voice. And I said this at the beginning, but just in case it's helpful for context setting, we're closing with the youth voice because you've spent the last day and a half on this learning journey. You've been parts of so many different conversations. Know that we're gonna close with the so what of it, and the so what of it will be grounded in the voice, the vision, and the power of our young leaders. And that is why we're gonna close with the youth plenary. So we invite you to go ahead, move into your breakouts, enjoy the rest of your time together, and we look forward to a powerful, transformative conversation when we reconvene here for lunch. Thank you all for being here with us this morning.